Hey, Dirty Dan here with Greasy Boy Customs. Today we're going for a stroll. We're actually walking to go pick up a customer's truck. Truck was in the neighborhood, broke down, had some overheating issues, so we're gonna go grab it, bring it back to the shop, and then we're gonna discuss different ways that you can go about diagnosing your overheating issues and different things to look for. Great looking truck. First things first, we're going to check the coolant level. Now, there was no pressure on the system, so I was able to remove the cap. It appears that the customer has topped it off. A little bit of backstory. The customer was driving it, came to park it, it was overheating, and it was spewing out the overflow hose. There is no catch can on this cooling system. It just dumps on the ground. Pretty old school stuff. It is normal to lose a little bit out of there. Now, if it's peeing everywhere and you're losing antifreeze every time you stop and it's always just making a huge puddle, then you've got a problem. So we're gonna go ahead and put the cap back on. Next thing we want to do is check the oil. Now, we're not suspecting a blown head gasket, but it's smart to go ahead and check the oil level, make sure that it's full and not over full, and that it's not discolored like it's been contaminated with coolant. Typically, when there's antifreeze on it, it'll have a milky brown color to it. This oil looks pretty new and is slightly under the full mark. Now we're gonna look for visible coolant leaks. Now, when I went to go move the truck, I didn't see any underneath, but now that we drove it about a mile and warmed it up a little bit, we may have some. So we're gonna check that out now. You wanna look around your water pump and your intake manifold. You also wanna check your heater hoses where they go into the firewall. Look around your radiator and look for any discoloration on there where it may have been stained by leaking coolant. Look around your thermostat housing, your lower hose right there at both ends. Nothing visible there. Now, it does have a heater core, so you do want to check inside the cab and make sure there's no coolant leaking onto the floor. And as you can see, nice and dry, no coolant anywhere. The next thing that we're going to do is pressure test the cooling system. Now, when you look on your radiator cap, typically there is a number on here that says 7 pounds. That tells you what this cap is rated for. When it achieves 7 pounds of pressure, it's supposed to relieve and send the coolant out the overflow. Now, this originally would have been equipped with a 6-cylinder or a flathead V8, and now it has a small block Chevy in it, so the pressure may need to change a little bit. Your coolant pressure also affects your boiling point of your water. Now, we've only got it pumped up to about 11 psi right now. We don't want to go too crazy. We're going to look around the engine for any external leaks, let it sit there for a little bit, then we'll pump it up just a little bit more, probably up to about 15 psi, and check for more leaks. We've got it up to about 15 psi. It's not dropping in pressure at all. It's staying nice and steady, and we don't see any external leaks. Well, now we got the weird funnel thing hooked on there. This device comes with a bunch of different adapters, and this allows you to increase the height of the top of the cooling system to help burp air bubbles out. It also gives you a little bit of expansion. We're going to run it and make sure there's no air bubbles in there. We've added some distilled water. I know it looks discolored. It's just because of the container. Try to use distilled water or pre-mixed antifreeze. Just it helps keep minerals and deposits out of your cooling system and helps a little bit with keeping rust out of there. We're going to fire it up, let it run to operating temperature, and see what happens. So while we are waiting for it to warm up, there are a couple other things you can check. One of the things you want to check is the airflow across your radiator. Now, this one has a mechanical fan, so it's running all the time. You can see it's sucking the rag in. As soon as I put it near it, you can use a piece of paper too. Not real hard, but it is pulling it in, so it is getting airflow across it. Another thing we want to keep our eye on is the temperature itself. And you can see right now, the temperature is still only between 100 and 175. We got a ways to go. But you can use an infrared heat gun to help see where your temps are at. 170 on the radiator, down by the thermostat housing, 165 on the water pump, a little bit hotter. Now, You have to be careful where you're shooting it, because if you're trying to check on the head and you accidentally get on the exhaust manifold, there you go. You can check your top hose versus your bottom hose. And you can see there is a difference. We don't know if there's a thermostat in here, but judging by the fact that these temps are almost the same, I'm assuming it's either stuck open or there's not one in there. So we're gonna let it keep warming up and see if we can get it up to operating temp. So where are we at right now? The engine has not overheated. We've only gotten it up to 200 degrees with the radiator cap off. Now we've since installed the radiator cap back on and we're having it run right now. We did notice with that radiator cap only being 7 psi, it's more prone to relieve pressure earlier, which is going to cause more to spill out more often out of your overflow. With the small block Chevy engine, typically you want like a 13 psi cap. I like 13, you might like 16, you might like 7. It's all going to depend on the vehicle, where you're driving, the temperature, how hard you drive it, is the engine built or not, what type of cooling system components do you have versus mechanical and electric fan. There's a little bit of room to play there, but 13 is a good starting point in my opinion on small block engines. The other thing is the thermostat. Now the thermostat may not exist. The upper and lower radiator hose temperature has stayed almost exactly the same through the entire range, and this thing took a very long time to warm up. That leads me to believe that either there is no thermostat or the thermostat is stuck open or partially open. So we're going to change the thermostat out, we're going to change the radiator cap out, and then we're going to see how everything goes. Now we've got the cooling system draining. You don't have to drain it completely, but just enough to where the water level's below the neck on the thermostat. If there is a thermostat in here, there's still going to be some coolant trapped in there, but we shall see. Other thing you want to do is check inside the radiator. See how some of those passages are starting to get clogged up? It's not good. It restricts flow. Let's have a 160 degree thermostat in it currently, and it was installed the correct way, like so. Now, I pushed it closed because even after I let it sit and cool down, it didn't close all the way. I had to force it that way, so we are going to change this out to a 180. Well, there we go. We've got it back together. New thermostat's in. Coolant is in, new caps on. We also fixed the horn while we were here too. So now we just got to wait for it to warm up. So we're going to crack a cold one and just sit back and watch it. All right, look, we got our coolant overflow tank installed over there. Let's check the cylinder head temperature. 188. That's not bad at all. This thing's been running for about 20 minutes with the cap on. We burped the air and kept on running it. And seems to be doing great. No leaks. Temperature's staying where it needs to. Let's go for a test drive. This is one smooth running truck. Temperature's still down around 175, 180. Temperature gauge of the dash isn't accurate like we mentioned earlier, but now I know how to subtract to make it right. We'll fix that at a later date. Well, there we go. We just got back from the second test drive and everything went beautiful. We let it run for about a half hour and then we took it on about a 12-mile journey. No issues. Everything went fine. We did some stop and go traffic. We did a little bit of highway speed and then came back and let it idle again for a little while. No issues. Not spewing coolant. It's not overheating. Everything's fine. We're going to call this one done. If you have any questions about any of the things we did today or any different tools that we used, please feel free to comment below and ask, or hit us up at greasyboycustoms@gmail.com. Oh, wait, I forgot. Happy hot rodding.